Before Tuesday's encounter, Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid had won 13 out of 14 games, including wins against the likes of Barcelona, Marseille, Juventus, Villarreal, but on match 15, up stepped Liverpool's very own slot machine. Arne Slot takes down and eliminates Real Madrid once again in fantastic tactical fashion. Despite Liverpool's quivering form, Liverpool were differing class that we'll be discussing today. Now, Liverpool's issues this season have stemmed from quite a few different areas, whether that's player performance, structural bruises, balance out of possession, missing figures, but it's all encircled around balance. Liverpool being carved open or played through was not an unfamiliar sight whatsoever, but all of those troubles were shoved aside as Liverpool off the ball were absolutely excellent for a change. When we analyse the first time Arne Slot met and defeated Real Madrid compared to now, there are quite a few differences that all actually lead to the same outcome. On the left is the most recent encounter with the European giants, and on the right is the 2-0 win we saw as of last season. In terms of Liverpool domination, chance creating excellence is apparent on both occasions, as Liverpool repeated more of the same from their last encounter. But interestingly enough, the difference this time was that Liverpool shared much less of the ball. This week, Slot's side shared just 39% of the ball, whilst a year ago they had over 60% of it. The roles had been pretty much flipped around when we compare the two encounters, but Liverpool's defensive display when we analyse Madrid's numbers were once again repeated. Arne Slot has been fairly questioned, criticised, ridiculed as of recently, with so many questions asked around the Reds off the ball, but Arne Slot showed against Real Madrid that he is tactically capable of dominating without the ball, nullifying the world's best attackers, nullifying the world's best midfielders, down to absolute scraps in front of goal. Madrid were poor, but Slot taking what was a few weeks ago an extremely vulnerable, naive, easy to counter-attack team to an absolutely faultless defensive display against the world best deserves credit. Credit that we'll be crediting today. Now, the start to the game was a very Liverpool-like start within the Champions League. It was aggressive, the atmosphere was rocking, and Madrid couldn't get out of their own half. But Madrid were really struggling to play out. Every player had their own sort of assigned man as to which they were tracking, and I think the midfield was particularly important here. Gravenberch with Bellingham, Gula with McAllister, Szoboszlai with Tchouaméni. Bellingham did try to rotate with Arda Güler at times and with Tchouaméni, but Liverpool were nice and alert. It was very good to see. The surprising addition was Camavinga at right mid. You'd think it would be the other way round with Gula over there, but that was tweaked in the second half, but a little bit of a weird decision, but we'll get into that later. But you can see on the pitch everybody with their 1v1 battles. Mbappe was with a 1v2 battle as Arne Slot wanted that +1 for Kylian Mbappe and that +1 like he usually does. But when Madrid tried to play out, they just kept getting trapped down each side, particularly in those early minutes and particularly in that first half. Whenever the ball funneled to Valverde, there was 3 to 4 players shifting across. There was no real pass out. Players were just overloading them and they ended up getting into position where they were near the corner flag and it ended up being a throw-in, or Wirtz would get the ball. When the ball was funneled over to the left side as well, particularly with Dean Howson quite a lot, Ekitike was running across, Szoboszlai was blocking the pass, McAllister, and even Florian Wirtz was running all the way from the left side to press with the likes of Ekitike and Salah, which really overwhelmed Real Madrid and it left them no answer. They tried playing little balls to the channels, the likes of Vinicius and Mbappe, but Connor Bradley was absolutely brilliant. A faultless display. Konate was alert, Van Dijk was alert, Gravenberch was immense. What a performance. So Real Madrid were trapped in this department and it was a very tricky overall performance. Liverpool were fantastic and Vinicius was nullified like hell. He didn't register a single shot all night long, and I think Conor Bradley has a lot to say about that. He was absolutely brilliant. Sometimes leaving your players 1v1 with a player like Vinicius can be a bit risky, but Conor Bradley on a Champions League night, on his day, on his night, when he's as sharp as that, there's nothing to worry about whatsoever. Madrid were trying lots of things. They were trying to shift Jude Bellingham over and Vinicius over and obviously Howson here as well to create those overloads, but it just wasn't quite working. Liverpool were tight, Liverpool were difficult to play through, and when we have a look at Liverpool within this deep defensive shape, it was a 4-4-2 at times when Szoboszlai would step out, but mainly everyone was back, and it was a very impressive shape because even Salah was back defending. Normally we see him around here and Conor Bradley would be isolated, but with the movement of Fernandes, with the movement of Vinicius and Jude Bellingham, I think Liverpool needed him back. The movement of the Real Madrid left back was particularly quite interesting. It was somebody that Salah was having a 1v1 physical tussle with all night, but he tried to run inside a lot to pull Salah away and create that easy pass over to Vinicius. The problem with that, Conor Bradley 1v1 was undefeatable all night, and Gravenberch was shifting across very well. I noticed there was pretty much 3v3s out wide. Obviously you had Fernandes and Vinicius, Jude was being tracked by Gravenberch. It wasn't quite working. The fluid setup from Real Madrid wasn't breaking down Liverpool. It was such a proactive display. The three players shifting across out wide was fantastic, and it was the exact same on the other flank if Valverde had the ball. You had Verts, you had Robertson, and you had McAllister as well. The inside pass was being picked up by these Liverpool players. It was very sloppy, you couldn't pass through them, and I think somebody who had a really good night in terms of tracking back, in terms of winning his duels, was Florian Wirtz. He was excellent off the ball. He was very hard working, and I think technically on the ball he's shown a lot of promise as well. Now when you come up against a very difficult shape such as this, it's important to shift the ball from side to side quick. Try and find those openings, which is what Real Madrid tried to do, but Liverpool shifted even better. They were fantastic. They were so alert. There was no real opening for Real Madrid. I think the only pass I've seen on the inside was Jude Bellingham's chance within the first half. So it says it all really, and it says how good Liverpool were within this department. Everybody was back, everybody was doing their duty, even Mo Salah, and of course Salah isn't as sharp to tracking back, he isn't as sharp to players running around him, which is why Gravenberch was so important. He was tracking for him, he was sort of making up for Salah's lack of proactivity without the ball. Salah's not going to anticipate the play as well as Gravenberch. Gravenberch was on form tonight and he was brilliant. Any Jude running behind, Gravenberch was there. But not all of Liverpool's success came without the ball. I think in build-up there was a lot of impressive things going on. Now if you think Real Madrid man-to-man, where are all these players going to stick? They were in a 4-4-2. Valverde to Wirtz, Militao to Ekitike, Howson to Szoboszlai. But that wasn't the instance. Howson and for me, Valverde was stuck. Valverde was stuck because Wirtz was completely abandoning that wing. He was drifting across and Valverde was left alone. He didn't have anybody to follow, he didn't have anybody to track, but Robertson could have very easily exploited that space in behind if Valverde moved all the way over here. So Valverde was stuck there, and then Zine Howson for me was stuck. He wasn't committing all the way to Szoboszlai because he was dropping quite deep within build-up. So was McAllister to pull Arda Güler in, so was Gravenberch to pull Tchouaméni in. It was overall a little bit of a confusing setup from Xabi Alonso within the first half. So whenever the direct ball was played from the goalkeeper into Ekitike, Ekitike didn't win it as much. It was the knockdown from Eden Militao that Liverpool and Arne Slot were interested in, and as you can see, Wirtz has that knockdown, Szoboszlai has that knockdown. So for me, there was a huge gap separating the midfield from the defence to Real Madrid. It was Salah on the knockdown as well, who was tight with the left back. So it was an excellent game plan from Liverpool overall. They played the ball out from the back but also consumed Real Madrid into them. So they had all of this space within this phase. Sometimes Wirtz would even travel all the way across just to pin back Dean Howson. This led to Dominic Szoboszlai having all of this space to run the ball into, to carry the ball into, and this just created quite literally 5v5s, 4v4s, where Liverpool could attack with open space. Salah was particularly good at this. You'd have late runners like Conor Bradley coming in as well, because Vinicius and Mbappe obviously don't track back as much. So this was an excellent game plan from Arne Slot and really exploited Real Madrid when Liverpool actually had the ball, as obviously they didn't have much of it. So Liverpool could play around Real Madrid with the likes of Mbappe and Vinicius not being so alert to them, but for me, Szoboszlai was the key. It was how sharp and how alert he was to that second ball. The game was all about 50-50 second balls, those little knockdowns, and Szoboszlai was getting to all of them. There's a space for him to carry, with everybody sort of pinning back a man as well, so nobody could really commit to him. It was a lot of distance for Tchouaméni to travel, Gula to travel. You won't even think about Mbappe travelling that amount of distance. So in terms of exploiting Real Madrid, Arne Slot got it absolutely spot on. He created a very similar amount of XG against Real Madrid than he had when he had all of the ball, with about 63% of it. So this just shows Arne Slot is a flexible manager. And of course, people may point out that a goal never actually come from this, but when you have Thibaut Courtois in goal, that is a little bit difficult. The goal came from Dominic Szoboszlai once again, and his brilliant dead ball ability. I mean, that midfield three, in terms of how much ground it covered, in terms of the execution of the passing, the forward passing, the recoveries, everything was absolutely spot on. Szoboszlai, even though he didn't score the header, McAllister did, for me he was the match winner. He was the key, and he's probably been Liverpool's best player this season. He was excellent. But if you enjoyed today's video, then feel free to smash a like and subscribe to the channel. Are Liverpool back? Are all of their troubles gone? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.